In a quiet neighborhood stood a house that appeared completely ordinary. Its walls were freshly painted, the small lawn was neatly trimmed, and the gate was always closed. To passers-by, it looked like any other home, but those who lived nearby often felt something strange about it. There was a silence around the place that was heavier than normal, as if the house itself was hiding something. Inside, a young woman named Zara lived with her mother, Shabana. Zara was in her early 20s, bright and full of life. She studied at college, met friends, and seemed like an ordinary girl with an ordinary routine. Every evening, before dark, she returned home, and after that, no one saw her again until the next morning. Her mother, Shabana, was different. She hardly spoke to anyone, rarely left the house, and never smiled. Neighbors whispered about her, calling her distant and cold. Some said she was just a strict woman, others believed she was carrying old grief. Whatever the truth was, she kept herself hidden behind closed doors. Over time, people began to notice unusual things about the house. At night, when the street grew quiet, sounds sometimes echoed from within. A sudden thud, the faint scrape of something moving, or the creak of footsteps where no one should be walking. But the most unsettling were the whispers, soft, almost inaudible voices that seemed to come and go with the wind. And then, on some nights, there was a sound that chilled the blood of anyone who heard it. A short, sharp scream that rose in the silence and then vanished before anyone could react. At first, neighbors dismissed it as their imagination. They told themselves it was the wind, or the creaking of the old house. Yet deep down, everyone felt the same unspoken fear, that behind those walls, something dark was happening. Morning came, but Zara was nowhere to be seen. She had not stepped out of her room to get ready for college, nor had she been spotted by the neighbors as she usually was. At first, people thought she might have gone out early, perhaps to meet a friend or run an errand. But by midday, unease began to grow. Her absence was unusual. The bus that took her to college had come and gone, but her gate never opened. By evening, whispers started spreading in the neighborhood. Zara was missing. When the police arrived, they searched the house carefully. What they found inside only deepened the mystery. Zara's phone lay on her bed, her purse on the desk, and her diary neatly tucked into the corner of her bookshelf. Everything important was still in place, suggesting she had not planned to leave. The house was quiet, with no signs of forced entry. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. Then came a disturbing discovery. In a drawer among Zara's belongings, an old photograph was found. It showed Zara and her mother, Shabana, standing close together and smiling. But the picture was incomplete. One side was torn away, leaving only the faint outline of another figure. It was clear someone else had once stood with them, someone who had deliberately been erased from the frame. The missing figure raised questions the family never wanted to answer. When investigators asked Shabana about it, she brushed the matter aside, claiming it was just an old picture from a time best forgotten. But her eyes betrayed her. Her voice trembled, her hands shook, and her unease only fueled suspicion. The torn photograph became the first true crack in the image of a normal life, hinting at something buried deep within the family's past. The investigation soon shifted to the basement, a place neighbors admitted they had never seen anyone enter or leave. The door was old, its hinges stiff with rust, and when it was finally forced open, a damp, suffocating air spilled out. The basement was cold and heavy with silence, as though it had been sealed for years. Investigators swept their flashlights across the floor, and in the far corner, something caught their eyes. Dark stains marked the concrete, irregular patches that had long since dried into a dull, almost black color. Tests confirmed what everyone feared: it was blood. Old, but undeniable. The discovery sent a chill through the team. Blood in a basement was not the sign of an accident, it hinted at something far darker. As they examined the ground more closely, they noticed areas of earth that appeared disturbed. The soil was uneven, as if someone had dug into it and refilled it, not once but several times. Each patch seemed like an attempt to cover something hidden. The neighbors were shaken when they heard the news. Many admitted that on certain nights they had heard strange noises. Some recalled muffled thuds, others swore they had heard whispers. But most haunting of all were the people who spoke of a scream. It had come suddenly, sharp and piercing, then stopped as quickly as it began. They had dismissed it at the time, convincing themselves it was nothing. Now, the truth began to sink in. That scream might have been real, and it might have been Zara's last. The basement, once just another room in a quiet house, was now seen as a place of horror. Every mark, every shadow, and every patch of disturbed soil spoke of hidden violence. The mystery was no longer about a missing girl, it was about what else this house was hiding. As investigators dug deeper into the family's past, a disturbing truth began to surface. Years earlier, Shabana's husband, Imran, had mysteriously disappeared. At the time, his vanishing was written off as a man who had simply walked away from his family. The case was quietly closed, and life moved on. But with the evidence now uncovered in the basement, that old disappearance no longer seemed like a coincidence. In Shabana's closet, hidden beneath folded clothes, police found a diary. Its pages revealed fragments of a life filled with anger, resentment, and despair. She wrote about her endless fights with Imran, about the bitterness that consumed their home, and about the night when everything changed. Her words hinted at violence, a moment of rage that ended with her husband's death. She described the crushing fear of being discovered, and the desperate decision to bury him where no one would look. Each line was stained with guilt, but also with the belief that she could carry the secret forever. But secrets have a way of finding light. Zara, curious and restless, had stumbled upon the diary. Reading her mother's words shattered her world. The quiet, distant woman she lived with was not just a grieving widow, she was a killer. Zara withdrew, pulling away from her mother and hinting that she would not stay silent. For Shabana, this was the beginning of her undoing. Fear consumed her, twisting into desperation. She believed if Zara went to the police, everything would unravel, her past, her life, her freedom. That night, when Zara tried to leave the house, Shabana acted. It was not reason or love that guided her, but blind terror. In silencing her daughter, she silenced the only person who truly knew the truth. The scream the neighbors heard was not a passing sound, it was Zara's final cry for help. The truth came crashing down when forensic results confirmed the remains buried beneath the basement belonged to Imran Ahmed. The story of his disappearance was no longer a mystery, it was murder. With this revelation, all suspicion turned firmly toward Shabana. The quiet, distant woman who had once seemed only grief-stricken was now revealed as someone who had lived years under the weight of her own crime. Yet what shocked everyone more was the discovery of Zara's final moments. Evidence showed a struggle, and traces of Zara's blood were found near the basement door. The scream the neighbors had once ignored became undeniable proof of her tragic end. Inspector Farid pieced the story together with grim clarity. Shabana had killed her husband years ago and lived in silence, hoping the secret would remain buried. But when Zara uncovered the diary, she unknowingly signed her own death sentence. Shabana, gripped by fear of exposure, chose to silence her daughter the same way she had silenced her husband. It was not madness in the moment, it was a calculated decision born from years of hiding the truth. When confronted with the evidence, Shabana did not weep or plead. Her silence spoke louder than words. She was taken away in handcuffs, her face expressionless, her eyes hollow. For the neighbors who had lived so close to the house, the realization was unbearable. All along, behind those closed doors, unimaginable horror had unfolded. The house itself became a symbol of dread, its walls no longer ordinary but forever marked by the cries that had once echoed inside. Zara's story was not just one of loss but of betrayal, a daughter destroyed by the very person meant to protect her. And in the end, the title of her tragic tale echoed in every heart that heard it, *Aakhri Cheekh star.